A Chinese-American Republican candidate in the 49th State Assembly District who focused heavily on public safety concerns won a higher share of the vote than any Republican challenger in the solidly Democratic district over the past decade. At a marathon Rosemead City Council meeting in October, a parade of mostly Chinese-American immigrants stepped up to the podium to decry the city's plans to open a small facility for homeless mothers and children. Many were convinced that the project was in fact a homeless shelter for 400 people. One woman, speaking through a Mandarin translator, blasted "You Democrats" for shoving homeless people into every town and city. Hello everyone. Today we specifically wanted to go over this New York Times article that mentions David Liu and goes over more broader themes of a rightward shift among Chinese Americans, as well as why David Liu is the best possible representation for Asian Americans in America, of the, right-wing shift toward MAGA. And this article does a great way of sort of talking about it, even though, the New York Times and this article are somewhat biased to be biased to the left. Even when they bring up David Liu, they obviously shine a positive light on him. So I'm going to read a few quotes for you from this article, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. So the article starts off with, "Voters across the country shifted right this November, propelled by persistent frustrations about inflation, crime, and immigration. But the drop in support for Democrats has been particularly noticeable among Chinese Americans, whose support for the Democratic presidential candidate fell to 53% this election from over 70% in 2020. So this, first and foremost, highlights how first-generation Chinese immigrants, like many of those living in California, Los Angeles, or the San Gabriel Valley, are beginning to understand and are beginning to shift their priorities away from core democratic beliefs such as I don't know, things like, I suppose, and letting criminals run free on the streets, to more grounded concerns such as public safety, prioritizing merit above inclusivity when it's not warranted, as well as economic stability rather than economic fluctuation, inflation, and everything that comes along with that. So there's no wonder that the Chinese population of America, and more specifically California, is trending more to the right from 70% to 53%. Another quote, "First-generation Chinese Americans especially have been less committed to a particular party and have increasingly become concerned about crime and homelessness in American cities, which have punctured the sense of security they sought in the United States." So, of course, if you were to be a first-generational Chinese immigrant and you came to the country in search of stability, in search of safety, in search of hope that you are able to build yourself up on your merit in a stable society, and you come to Los Angeles, one of the largest cities in America, and you find it to be infested with homelessness, you find it to be infested with crime, with a government that seems to be entirely apathetic toward it, of course, you're going to look at all of this and you're going to say, what's going on? Something's not right here. And you're going to look into alternatives from the mainstream politics of the Democrats. So it's not a surprise, and it's a sign that we are on the right path. Another quote. A Chinese-American Republican candidate in the 49th State Assembly District who focused heavily on public safety concerns won a higher share of the vote than any Republican challenger in the solidly Democratic district over the past decade. So, over here, of course, they're talking about David. Of course, they're talking about David Liu. And you see what I mean? They bring him up, and even though this article is quite skewed to the left, they still have to give him his flowers and mention that he won a higher share of the vote than any Republican challenger in the solidly Democratic district over the past decade. Now, what does that say? That says that not only are the tides turning in the Asian American community for the right, for the Republicans, but that David is able to turn them and mobilize them and have them vote. It shows his influence, his ability to connect with Chinese Americans when it comes to helping them vote in candidates who are going to pursue better policies for them. We will expand on this further later, but this shows for now just how David Liu is the best representation of MAGA and Republican ideals for the Chinese American community. So, another quote. Many Chinese immigrants have also been turned off by Democratic support for affirmative action because they believe it does not reward merit. Few see relevance in the fight for transgender rights. Shocker, I know. Few hardworking, good first-generation Chinese immigrants see the relevance of transgenderism as an ideology. Can you believe it? I mean, not much has to be said about transgenderism and why grounded individuals who emigrate from China or Taiwan or those sorts of places come to the United States and see transgenderism are completely appalled by it when there are real problems to be taken care of. One of the parties is running around with its heads cut off with a religious devotion toward this perversion. Also speaking on affirmative action and merit, again, why do most people come to the United States in the first place? They come to the United States in the first place in order to have a better life, right? And why do they think they're going to have a better life? They think they're going to have a better life because they're going to be able to succeed based on their own merit. Because they think they're going to be able to work and they're going to be rewarded for that work amicably and fairly, as opposed to other places in the world where it's very corrupt, it's very nepotistic. America's not like that. And that's why these immigrants have come here in the first place. Because you don't need to be a part of some family. You don't need to do some dirty deed in order to achieve a good level of success or acclaim here. You need to work hard. And for working hard, you will be rewarded. So when these first-generation immigrants come here and they see that, wait, the leadership of California isn't prioritizing merit, they're prioritizing affirmative action, where my position is made worse because this other random individual who doesn't do anything deserves to have something that I have, this is completely nonsensical. And, you know, of course, due to all of these reasons, again, the Chinese and broader Asian community has become more right-leaning. That is why David Liu won the highest percentage of votes, came the closest in the past decade to flipping a deep blue district. We have another quote here. Oh, never mind, I lied. We don't have another quote. I wanted to speak more and elaborate more on why the current Trump administration is perfectly aligned with the trajectory of David Liu and the wider, broader trajectory of Asian Americans living in not only California, but across the entire country. So, as we saw, one of the first things that Trump did at the beginning of his term was cracking down on institutions of higher learning that were prioritizing students who were simply part of a marginalized group, rather than students who had the merit to go to these institutes of higher learning. And keep in mind, Chinese Americans and Asian Americans in general, doesn't matter what kind of Asian, are a marginalized group by definition. However, because Asian Americans work harder, they have better institutions of tradition, all of a sudden, Asian Americans are able to succeed based on their own merit. They're able to get better scores, they're able to get better jobs, they're able to make more money. And when these institutes see the success of these individuals, all of a sudden, they're no longer marginalized. And Trump, you know, saw the hypocrisy of all of this, and he took the fight to these institutions. He cut their funding because this is entirely unfair. This is completely idiotic. This is baffling behavior, which, once more, David Liu entirely supports Trump's move in terms of higher education. You know, by rejecting DEI programs, the administration promotes merit-based opportunities, not only in education, but also just in jobs in general, because that's also incredibly influential. You know, if you go to a better school, you're going to get a better job. So, the Trump movement and the growing movement of right-wing Asian Americans is greatly intertwined. And due to the success that David Wu saw while running for the district, it is therefore we believe that he is the best representation of the growing right-wing Asian community. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that article.